girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, someone Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival returns to historic Cruise Stadium. Slipknot, Disturbed, Pantera, The Original Misfits, Evanescence, Limp Bizkit, Judas Priest, Stain, Breaking Benjamin, A Day to Remember, Falling in Reverse, Sleep Token, Rise Again, 311, Seether, Mudvayne, and many more. May 16th through the 19th, Columbus, Ohio. Tickets on sale now at SonicTempleFestival.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And a real quick housekeeping note, if you are watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever podcast platform you utilize, please hit that follow and subscribe button so we continue to bring you conversations like the one I'm bringing you today, getting to catch up with my buddy, Mr. Josh Bernstein. How you doing, Josh?
Not too bad, sir. How about yourself?
Good, man. Good. The weather's been back and forth here in Cleveland, Ohio, but looking forward to that groundhog not lying to us and getting out and enjoying some music festivals this summer, as we were discussing earlier.
Well, you got, as you know, you got a little. You might not think it, but you get kind of spoiled out there. You got a couple great festivals. You got the Rock Hall. You got so much good stuff out there for a music lover to enjoy. I got to work out in Cleveland for a couple of years and loved putting on events and award shows there. It was always fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, always a good time, man. I complain when I'm here stuck in the weather for a while, but, when I leave, during my time in the military, it was like, Cleveland proud. That's where I was from. Everybody compared, in the military, be like, oh, who's your home football team? I got the Browns, but
Yeah.
But
I'm a Mets fan. I understand what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. But Josh,
be the underdog.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. But usually when I have somebody on for the first time, I like to get a quick background. So do you remember originally what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I wanted to become a comic book artist. That was my my childhood dream, and kept it going through college, and I guess sort of got there eventually in a weird roundabout way. I wanted to become a comic artist.
Awesome. Well, that rolls into the next question because, what were some of your early comic influences as a kid?
Like what? I guess Super Friends turned me on to a lot of stuff. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon; those were huge. And then, I think a lot of stuff of the toys I collected as a kid also brought me to comics, like Transformers and G.I. Joe. Because at that time period, the comics and the toys and everything they seemed equally as big to me. And the TV shows too, the cartoons. So I think that's probably what brought me there. My dad was a reader growing up, and loved it. Just instant. The minute I had one in my hands, I wanted. It's like drugs. Once too much, 1,000 is never enough. They say that about drugs and comics.
Yeah,
I can quit any time.
Well, that explains my correlation and my journey, I guess, as well. Then, because I remember when I would get them when they were like 25 cents, back in the day. And, I was a big, Spider-Man as well, Marvel fan, got into DC and Superman and Batman and all that growing up, and I still got the boxes stored here, in the plastic sleeves and all that stuff.
I mean, we're of a similar generation that, when we were kids, right? Like Gene Simmons put his blood in the Kiss comic, and the music and comics worlds had always, there was a mutual appreciation society, but I don't know how much they overlapped in the past. So it's cool finding ways to get them to play together in the sandbox now.
Yeah. And, I know, like, during my collection, like, even when I went off to the military, I was friends with the local comic shop, and they would order, they would keep a little file for you of whichever ones you collected. And then they would do the crossovers, and they got me crossed over. But like you said, in high school, then I'm getting into music, and I'm getting into, like, I remember I had the comics. I forget what the name of the, the comic book company was that put it out, but I had an old, like, Guns N' Roses comic. I had an old NWA comic.
That would be Revolutionary Comics who put that out. I collect all those. I love those. I have, like, the Aerosmith one, the Warrant one, the Whitesnake one. The guy who drew that, or drew a lot of those, a guy named Greg Fox, I think his name was, and he lived in, like, my town in Long Island growing up. So, like, he did, like, a signing at my comic book store when I was a little kid, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be a comic book artist. So, like, it's so cool. And I look back at those as, oh, look, by the way. So, I'm not kidding. Black Crows.
Oh yeah. That was the
Vanilla Ice to the extreme. And Poison. So yeah, I actually found a couple of these at a garage sale recently, and it was like, hold on, what do we got here? Aerosmith 2. I guess they did 2 Aerosmith books, and then God, this artwork is really something. Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
So yeah, that was I kind of look at those as like the ancient ancestors of what I'm working on now, which is getting artists, comics and musicians to work together. And there's early signs of it there originally, and now we see it every day. And a lot of my career, wherever I've worked, wherever I've been, I always tried to get those two worlds to work together.
Yeah, so I want to ask about your journey too, because like like we're around the same time frame, growing up through the same series of comics, but also music coming out. Like, who were some of your early influences with music?
Oh, as a kid, the first music I remember liking on my own was like, I remember whatever it was for my birthday that year, I got a cassette called Chart Action 83. And it had Stray Cat Strut on it, Goody Two Shoes by Adamant, Twilight Zone by Golden Earring.
Oh yeah.
God, just maybe Angel in the Centerfold by Jay Giles. It was just as and I think I Want to Rock or We're Not Going to Take It by Twisted Sister. So it very much felt like the first time that it was my music and not my parents' music. And I love my parents' music, right? I grew up Beatles, Stones, The Doors, The Who, Creedence. Like, I grew up in a very classic rock household. I think that was my first cassette, and I grew up in Queens in the early 80s. So it was like classic rock. And of course, like the cool things that were happening in the neighborhood, like Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and LL Cool J were happening very locally. That was very exciting too, as was Twisted Sister and Stray Cats out in Long Island. So all really cool. And I grew up, later in life, punk, metal. Of course, I was in high school when grunge hit, so that hit hard. And whatever we used to call college music, right? Like Jane's Addiction, Faith No More, Violent Femmes, Dead Milkmen. I really liked everything. When I got to college in the early 90s, in New York City, I got to go, every concert you imagine comes through. So
Oh yeah.
I saw everything my freshman year: Tool, Rage, Primus, Beastie Boys, Cypress Hill, Nine Inch Nails, Failure, Caius, all this cool stuff. Very, it was like $10 a show. We just went to Chili Peppers. We saw everything, so caught that bug early.
Yeah. And then
you can see behind me somewhere, there's like a bunch of suitcases over there. Those are all filled with, I don't open them anymore, but those are just all ticket stubs and laminates from over the years. Once I'm done, I'm like, I haven't gone through it ever, but those are filled with like every sticky or whatever, I try to keep everything. I'm a pack rat. I'm a hoarder.
Yeah. Oh no, dude, we got that in common too. I mean, I got you can't see down here, but it's like, I got the boxes and I got a drawer up in my bedroom with just all my stickies and laminates and stuff. And then I got my actual Sonic Temple when I was doing media there. I framed the little cool thing they made for me for my table back when they used to have the different tables set up and all that. It's like huge collector as well. And you brought back memories. My first vinyl I actually owned of my own was the J. Giles Band Freeze Frame and stuff. So that's what got me. And then Kiss Alive, and then it was over.
Yeah. And you can see, with like say Love Gun, right, or Peace of Mind, or these albums look like comic book covers to me already. They're very similar. Molly Hatchet album cover looked like a Conan comic or something, So it was
it would be the same thing with me back then. It would be like the artwork and reading the liner notes. It was almost, and then you'd put the headphones on and just go on the adventure, like with the music. And then, I'd go to my local comic shop, start collecting the comics and read the series. And then they'd get me with a crossover. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm collecting another title, and one thing led to another. But like you had mentioned too, like having your own shop, like how did that journey unfold early into getting into the business side of comic books?
Yeah, in high school, 10th grade maybe, I got a job at the local comic book store that I shopped at in my town. They paid me $4 an hour to bag and board comics, and like you, I had what's called a pull box. The pull box is what the comic store holds for you every week, so it doesn't get sold out. And you can say, I'm a Batman reader and Wonder Woman, they'll hold it for you. My pull box, I never made enough money at the comic store to get out of debt to my own pull box. So I just worked there to work off my own comics. And then in the summer between high school and college, junior and senior year, I was taking comic book drawing classes in the city, and my mom told me basically to go get a job. And I went to every comic company I could find, like in the Yellow Pages, and asked for jobs everywhere until I got to Marvel. And then Marvel gave me an internship, which really, forgive me, I'm just getting overcold. The internship really set me on my path. I got to intern for Marvel Comics in high school for like a year, and learn the process of printing. And I spent 3 months in every division. So I worked in the art editorial department. I worked in marketing. I worked in sales. I worked in art returns. I worked in design. And so I got to see a little bit of how each part of the business works. And then separately, all throughout college, I worked at bookstores. So I knew every way something gets printed and distributed, and I came from, my mother is a, longtime music journalist and entertainment journalist. So like I grew up in the, sort of going to shows with my mom where she was reviewing concerts. So, this is all in my blood. Getting into the music business thing was a little later. I became an art director of many music magazines like Revolver and Guitar World. And when I was there, I was, putting on concerts and shows myself on the side. And at some point it was decided that I was always pitching Revolver to do an award show. So we ended up doing something called the Golden God Awards, which was a huge heavy metal award show. And that really took off and was successful. So that allowed me to really realize that I could produce events and put on these larger scale properties. And then I've, since have done that with Alternative Press in Cleveland. Got to do a couple AP awards in Cleveland there at Voinovich Park and at the Q. Got to walk on the court where LeBron played. Pretty badass. I definitely grabbed the ball and shot it and missed the hoop. I was like, I'm going to get yelled at, but I'm going for it. And through all those travels is how I met Danny Wimmer originally, and started working with him in his festivals, and we formed a friendship. And that led to me being backstage many years interviewing artists, which led to, you and I hanging out recently, because that came full circle about 10, 15 years later, after it started. But Danny called me up and asked me and Pinfield and Katie to host a show for him. And, we've been doing that now over 2 years. Believe it or not.
Yeah. I was remembering like that pull box, going back to the comic books real quick too, is like when I was deployed in the Navy, I still wanted to keep up on the storylines, and I would have them mailed out to me, which probably wasn't a good move, because of course then I wasn't even thinking mostly about the collecting and how much they would be worth later. I just wanted to read the stories. So some of them got fumbled up or whatever along that way. But my first tattoo I ever got off the Navy base was, I don't think I showed you, but I will this year when we meet up, was Wolverine. I got Wolverine on my arm. And then the latest one I got, which was a couple years ago, I'm behind on keeping up on tattoos on my body, was Captain America's shield on my elbow here. So
there you go.
But so when did I wanted to ask go back a little bit too to Z2 Comics and how did that come together for you?
Maybe about 10 years ago. Yeah, I guess about 10 years ago, me and some friends, I had a friend that was looking to start like an independent comic book company. He was an old intern of mine, so we helped put this thing together. I always had day jobs and full-time jobs, so I always basically loved doing this because it was an outlet for me to do all my art and stuff. As I got into promoting, selling sponsorships, producing TV show and other stuff. So, once you start doing stuff like that, no one's asking you to also make the logos anymore, design the art. But I didn't want to let that go. And I felt if I didn't use it, I would lose it. So I wanted to have an outlet for that. And sort of the beauty of Z2 is sort of that of just a fun creative outlet to do art with my friends. And, we stumbled upon something innocently enough, as we had a project that involved tangentially an artist that was Dan Auerbach from the band The Black Keys. And the idea was, sort of congealed that we should put out an album, a piece of vinyl with a comic book, with a graphic novel. And when it happened, sort of a light bulb moment went off, because it really reminded us of our childhood. And you probably remember Superman comic or Batman comic that had the record in it, right? And you'd play it and it would beep and you'd turn the page. And I love that idea. And I always loved those music comics and the universes that those worlds build. And we just sort of picked our lane, and went down that lane, which was helping musicians and artists build graphic novel universes, not comic books, but, true like books that will be on your coffee table, that stand the test of time, and making really, lush deluxe editions of what we do, and you can see that, like the Weird Al one behind me over there, like, really, I don't want to say overdoing it, but like, bringing it up to the quality. I don't know, everywhere I've worked in my career, I always felt like when I was at Revolver Magazine, we always felt at that time that metal magazines of our childhood did not treat the reader with respect, right? It was like Hit Parader, Circus, metal, it was gas station magazines, right? And when we came along, it was like we assumed that the reader went to college. We assumed that you might have a day job. You might not even have a criminal record, and all those great things. And I feel like that's the same thing with these projects. Are like comic books in our childhood were that of, as you said, like you had them shipped out to you in the Navy because you wanted to read what was going on with Logan and what's going on over there, keeping up with the storyline. But like you weren't also then being like, I'm in the military. I'm also going to have boards and bags shipped in and seal these things in Mylar and all this stuff. So we are now older. We make toys for boys, right? We're older guys, and we collect shit, and we try to make something that really stands the test of time, and that's always been the fun challenge. But I think what Z2 does special, and that's how that was birthed. It was making those special projects. Very early on, we worked with Baby Metal, Grateful Dead, The Doors. Andy from Black Veil Brides was an early, partner of ours, and another Ohio native. Shout out. His book was actually called Ghosts of Ohio, which is really cool. So yeah, and now we've done about 75 books since.
Yeah, I've had Charlie on from Anthrax, and we talked about the Anthrax Among the Living graphic novel. I really enjoyed that one. I have that one, and I picked up the Skillet one as well. I enjoyed the Skillet.
So the Charlie thing is so funny. Charlie and I are old buddies, and we worked together many times over the years at the magazines, at the award shows, and we're part of the native New York metal crew here. And he called me and said, "Hey, do you know? I'm thinking about doing a comic. Are you friends with any of these guys at Z2?" And I went, "Yeah, that's my company. Why do you want to get a hold of them?" And he's like, "I want to do a graphic novel." And I was like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "It's your company?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I'll send you a contract later." And we were in bit like, it was, we didn't have to say anything. We're all friends. Like, yeah, it's a done deal. Let's go. And then we hit up Scott, and Scott was super, I actually knew Scott at that time even better than Charlie. And as I said at the beginning of the podcast, like, I'm a kid who grew up in Queens in the 80s. Like, you don't need to tell me how to make the perfect 1987 Among the Living graphic novel, that came with a Madball, right? Like, this is like, there was no one better suited to work on this thing. And me and Scotty and have a mutual friend named Ian Sattler who had worked at DC Comics. And me and Ian Sattler, collaborated on that thing together, basically putting together a wish list of everyone on the planet that we knew were comic fans, Anthrax fans. And man, that thing became a real labor of love, that project.
Yeah, it was amazing. I really loved all the guest artists from the music world that were involved.
Corey Taylor, Corey wrote a chapter, Zombie, Mikey and Gerard Way. But even, we got like Greg Nicotero from The Walking Dead involved, and Brian Posehn, the comedian. Killers. Everyone's a killer on that book. It's really one of my proudest achievements here, and working with my buddies. It was great.
Yeah, and I like the concept of each song getting its own story.
I mean, it was one of those things where you say out loud, and you're like, shit, I got to figure that out now. Where I told Scott that, like, oh, I could probably just get the rights to Judge Dredd, and you could write. He's like, can I write that story? Can I write I Am the Law? I'm like, oh God, now I can't let this guy down. I got to figure this out. So we tracked down the folks in the UK and I got the license for it, and it worked out. And it was really pinch me stuff. Scott said the nicest compliment ever, which he always says to me. He goes, I knew you were going to make an Anthrax book, but shit, you made us a Metallica book. And what he means by that is, like, it's Metallica always gets the first call in heavy metal, right? It's a TV brand, like if there's gonna be a metal band at the Super Bowl, Metallica is gonna get that call first, right? If it's a car company wants to Metallica. And he's like, we did the best graphic novel first. Metallica doesn't have this. Like, what a compliment, So really sweet. And it ain't working when you're having fun, and that one was just so exciting. The Motorhead book we just announced like 5 minutes ago is of a similar spirit. It's so fun. It's like it's not even a comic. It's like a party where all your buddies are invited. That's probably how I look at it, because we're all working on something together, and that's so fun.
Is there going to be like some scenes of Lemmy at the Rainbow and stuff like that?
Oh, it's like 50% of that book is at the Rainbow. The other half is like him on a couch in his underwear, smoking a cigarette. It's so cool. I got to blessed to have worked with Lemmy so much over the years, and award shows, got to be part of his documentary and a couple other things and cover shoots. And he was such a presence, you know, and I met Ozzy and Dio, and we met, you know, we worked with everybody in that space. But God, that guy, you know, I'm not intimidated much, or I don't get nervous much, but he would always make me, I was always like, you talk to him. I'm scared.
I just had Patrick Stone on the last episode from Butterside, who did your theme music. And
Patrick and Lemmy, well, was he his assistant?
He shared some good Lemmy stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lemmy signed them.
Yeah.
What I love about this book is that exactly what you just said. No one who has met Lemmy doesn't have a story.
Oh, yeah.
Famous, unfamous, related, not related. Everyone's like, oh, Lemmy, by the way, the time I met him, blah, 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 blah. You know, and myself included, you know, I you know, had the pleasure of working with him a dozen times, wherever it was. And every one of those times, there's like 5 stories within that day of what happened and what went down that were just so badass, you know?
Yeah, and I think Lemmy might kind of lead to like another crossover of a mutual thing that we both enjoy, if I remember correctly, into professional wrestling with him doing Triple H's theme music and stuff. Now I know you know, with the Power Hour, you're on the same station with Impact and New Japan Wrestling and stuff like that, but I remember it was like Sonic Temple last year. Me and you were talking for a little bit to Soraya.
Ronnie, that's right.
Yeah, Ronnie Radke.
Did you see Lita was there too?
Was she there?
I went up to her. I actually did the, do you know who you look like? And she went, yeah. I went, oh.
No, I didn't see her last year. Was she there that same day?
Hanging out by herself as a fan, and then, you know, she had a backstage pass, so someone hooked her up, but like she was just rolling around as a music fan at Sonic Temple. I was like, badass. Yeah,
she's awesome. She did when she fronted a punk band back in the day called the Luchagors, and they played here in Cleveland. And she dove from the stage right into my arms, and I like carried her through the pit and everything. It was. I told her last time I saw her, I told her it's still one of the highlights of my life.
Just a heads up, I have to hop in 2 minutes. My apologies. I listen. Comics, rock and roll, pro wrestling, and then oxygen. That's all I need in life. I love all of it. Being on the network with both TNA and New Japan is so rad. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Can't say much coming up, but like TNA is really, you know, it's what a golden age we are in wrestling, right? We have multiple companies. Everyone's doing well, right? AEW is doing well. TNA is doing well. New Japan's doing great. MLW is doing great. WWE is at a level that's even hard to comprehend how big it is, you know, with the merger with TKO and Endeavor. It's the same shit to me. Like Gene Simmons is Ultimate Warrior, is is Wolverine, right? Like it's a larger than life escape from our 9-to-5 day job, you know, and I love it all. And I think it's just as much the finest art as anything in a museum. Like I love what's happening. Wrestling is art to me, in theater. We are, I didn't think we were, but I can say now we're living in a golden age of all of it, you know, and what a great time to really soak it in and enjoy what's happening. We have WrestleMania in a couple weeks. It's going to be ridiculous. 2 days, you know, and then we're going to be at all these festivals soon, you know, and we're about to put out some of our best books. And
when's that Motorhead going to drop?
So the Motorhead book was announced today. It's called No Remorse, The Incredibly True Illustrated Stories of Lemmy Kilmister and Motorhead. I basically interviewed, me and our editor Rance interviewed about 30 different famous rock stars and asked them their favorite Lemmy story, and they gave it to us. Grohl, Ozzy, Triple H, Corey Graves, Lita Ford, Chrissy Hine, Lars Ulrich, Lars Fredriksson from Rancid's in it, Dee Snider. The stories are batshit insane. But all the stories are also heartwarming and gorgeous. And so the book was announced today. You can pre-order it. You can even get a version of it that comes with a double LP of No Remorse album. And the book will be released officially this summer at San Diego Comic-Con in July. So
awesome.
Dave Grohl wrote the foreword. Ozzy wrote the afterword. And it's a real must-have. And I think one of the most honest portrayals of the man you could read, because it's not just one story about him, it's 30 stories. When you read the whole thing, you get a sense that he was an underrated musician, a gentleman, an actual gentleman, a scholar, and the living embodiment of rock and roll. There is none, he is the king of rock. There is none higher.
And then real quick, back to Power Hour, or else Kevin will be mad at me. But season 2 is done. Are you guys started season 3 yet?
I literally got home last night from filming episode 1 of season 3. So we are coming back. The exact dates I can't reveal yet, but we are so I cannot believe the amount of guests and artists that have joined us in the past year. I think we did about 30 episodes of the show and maybe had about 75 different guests and probably 150 something interviews over the course of the year. And, Green Day, Foo Fighters, Metallica, Guns, Maiden, Sabbath, everyone's come on the show. And now, me and Matt and Katie just want to sort of see who we've never gotten. So our first episode will have John 5 on it, and he brings us a guitar, and we have a lot of fun. He brings a guitar and an amp, so stay tuned because that's thoroughly ridiculous what we do with him. And we'll be at every Wimmer Festival this year. So if your fans are out there listening, especially Sonic Temple,
Sonic Temple and Incarceration here in Ohio. So
we'll be at both Columbus and Mansfield coming up soon. And us three, we also, as we go out there with the fans before the gates open and hang out with everybody and film stuff. So hopefully we'll see you guys out there. And then we head backstage and talk to all the bands all weekend. So I'm as excited as you guys are as fans. Look at those lineups. They're ridiculous.
Yeah, I pitched this to our mutual friend and sober brother, Matt, when he was on the show. And I'll pitch it to Mr. Wimmer himself. But if you guys need a military veteran correspondent in the Ohio Festival,
do you know of anybody
to work the Power Hour? I know a guy, just throwing that out there.
Thank you so much. I will let him know. That's the funniest thing lately is we've gotten, which is so sweet. Like we've got a couple other managers have hit us and said, "Hey, my artist is going to be going to this. For example, my lead singer is going to be at this festival. Can he film a segment?" And there's a lot of people that want to be like Daily Show correspondents for the Power Hour now, and it's like, really? Like I'm always surprised that people know the show. John 5 when we started the interview, he's like, "By the way, like, love the show, love what you guys are doing. It's so funny." I'm like, cut. Like, wait, are you serious? He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, holy shit.
No, you guys are
we live in a
great,
bubble. We all live in our little bubbles, so I don't know.
I love driving down to Louder this past year and getting the picture with all three of you, because you don't always catch you all together. And it was great to get that. That was one of my highlights at Louder.
We're not, it's almost an illusion that we're together that much. We really maximize our time. But I'm the lone Jersey guy. So, everybody else is LA but arguably we live at the festivals. We run away with the circus every couple of months.
Oh yeah. What a dream, man. Living the dream. Like you said, if you enjoy what you're doing, it ain't work. So
no, and I don't think for a second that the three of us are so humble and blessed and happy that we get to be there. And like you said, we're just as big a fans as anybody else. I'm a Misfits are probably a top 3 band, definitely top 5, but maybe a top 3 band in my life. So
I'm looking forward to that for sure at Sonic Temple. That's definitely.
I really hope I don't have any work-based obligations during that time period because I got Glenn and Jerry need me to sing along.
I bet.
And me and Matt have to support our Jersey brothers there and sing along to the Misfits.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there and reconnecting, and I'll show you the Wolverine tattoo, and at least come by and say hey.
I hope it's in an appropriate place. I don't want
it is. It's on my arm, so we're good. I mean, I could probably kind of show you right here a little bit, but
there you go.
Yeah, right above.
We just put out the Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden graphic novel, and we were doing a signing. And a fan came up and said, the fan was like mumbling, and then Bruce looked at me and was like, what's going on? I'm like, what do you want, sir? And he's like, he basically was trying to say, can Bruce, I have an Iron Maiden tattoo I want to show him, which was on his thigh. And he's like, can I take off my pants? And I just turned to him and I said, brother, you didn't really think this plan through, did you? He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, we got to keep this line moving. Like you should. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, if I were you, I would come up on the stage pantsless. You blew your chance. And he wanted Bruce to sign his thigh, and then he would get Bruce's signature tattooed next to the Iron Maiden. I was like, dude, you not today. But
yeah, maybe should have wore shorts or one of those pull apart, Chippendale pants or something.
People always ask me like, who would you do a book with, and who do you not do books with? And I always say it doesn't really matter the genre. But as long as if the fans of that artist get tattoos of that artist's lyrics or art on their bodies, that's who I want to mess with. And that was a prime example of I think we're working with the right guy here. Bruce Dickinson, pretty wonderful, and he'll be at Aftershock this year. First time Iron Maiden ever doing a Wimmer festival. So
I might have to buy a plane ticket for that.
Yeah, that's going to be. Well, you could if you're really buddies with him. Bruce could fly you out personally.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I'll have to work
Ed Force One.
Work that angle. But hey, Josh, I know you got to get going, man. I really appreciate your time. Looking forward to reconnecting with you this summer. Before I let you go, you mind doing me one last favor?
Sure.
Just cut a promo ID for the show. Just introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Right. Hey, this is Josh Bernstein from the Power Hour, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle. My favorite podcast in the entire world.
You are the greatest, Josh. I love you, man. Thank you so much, brother.
Dude, so good seeing you. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Too. All right. Take care.
Sound the alarm. Incarceration Music and Tattoo Festival is back with Shinedown, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Hailstorm, The Offspring, Chevelle, Bad Omens, Chimera, and so many more. Report to historic Ohio State Reformatory this July 19th through 21st. 3 days of non-stop rock, tattoos, Blood Prison, Haunted House, and more. Passes on sale now at incarceration.com.